Welcome back. And we were carrying over from what we were talking about last hour, being the your Buccos. And a study by, this is from a story in the Trib yesterday by Travis Sawchik. And it says here, a study by analyst Scott McKinney of Baseball America's top 100 prospect rankings. These are pitchers, I think, from 1990 to 2006. That's a large sample. Okay.
Yeah.
17 years. Found 77.4% of top 100 pitching prospects became busts, defined as failing to reach the majors or averaging less than 1.5 WAR per season. Major League Baseball analyst John Hart experienced attrition as a general manager. A truism is if you have 10, you can really count on 2 of them making it. I came up in the 1980s and never believed it. I said, come on, there can't be that much attrition. Then bang, this guy gets hurt. This guy doesn't develop a third pitch. You can never have enough pitching. Some attrition already is occurring. Zachary von Rosenberg, signed for $1.2 million in 2009, has yet to advance behind High A. Stetson Ali, these are Pirates.
Right.
Stetson Ali, signed for $2.25 million in 2010, struggled so badly they gave up pitching. The Pirates' challenge is to improve upon the traditional attrition rate. How much faith do you have in the Pirates getting 3 out of 10 good enough? If you draft
First of all, in this particular, the Pirates, the main reason, the Pirates struggled for 20 years without making the playoffs, from 92 up until early 2000s, was because of their minor leagues. Now I know one of those years they were voted the best, and that was a total aberration. Yeah. They did a terrible job drafting, and they did a terrible job scouting, and they weren't even looking down in Latin America. They were just a joke,
right?
And that's why they did it. It wasn't anything to do with free agency or anything like that. So I have total faith in this particular front office, and they deserve all the accolades, and they received a lot this past offseason, okay? And they deserve them. Their minor leagues right now are tremendous. I'm talking from single A to double A, single A West Virginia, double A Altoona, triple A Indianapolis. They are stockpiled with a lot of players who look like they're going to help this team in the next 5 to 6 years, whether through trades or whether coming up and helping immediately like Polanco and Tyon are going to do this year. They've done a tremendous job. They drafted 2 kids last year who are getting incredible high marks. Reese McGuire and Austin Meadows. These 2 kids look like they're, so far, we're only a year in, right, but they look like they're really hot prospects. Well, now, remember, we're not far removed when they were drafting Brian Bullington, who 2 weeks after he was drafted was labeled a bust.
Yeah.
And he was the first overall pick, by the way, okay? Yeah, it is unbelievable. So just a lot of teams.
I just saw where Moskos was, I saw a little note
Daniel
somewhere.
Moskos.
He was sent out.
One. Yeah.
Sent out to AAA from the, I forget his campus.
Every year, John, we'd have to sit there and go insane, us baseball aficionados, when they could have drafted Matt Wieters.
Yeah.
I mean, there were so many instances when this ball club just did things because, number one, the main reason, John, was they didn't want to pay these draft picks. That was the main reason. Remember, there was none of this nonsense you got to do now where you have this salary cap for draft picks. Top 10 picks, you're only allowed to pay so much. Back in the day when the Pirates could have built through the draft, they drafted because they couldn't sign them.
Yep.
So they only have themselves to blame. That was one of the reasons. I think the other reason was they were terrible at finding talent.
Yeah.
But now I totally trust these guys. I think that they've proven through their track record that they know how to find prospects, whatever their system is, and they're willing to sign them. They do a good job signing them. Now, they drafted Mark Appel, and they didn't sign him. But guess what? They ended up getting another pick for that. It didn't really cost them that much. So it wasn't that big of a mistake drafting Mark Appel, the big stud out of Stanford, who once they drafted him, he said, I'm not signing with the Pirates.
Right, which isn't good. But when you read this story here, you see that they basically have decided that, and there's money involved here. They have this because they can keep these guys longer. They're younger, which means as their clock is ticking, they can keep them And when they do become major league ready, they're only 20, 21 years old, and you get them for 6 more years after that, I guess. I don't know how it works. But anyway, they are throwing all their stock in young high school pitchers, which have been historically a very risky proposition.
Well, it's unprecedented how many high school pitchers they've taken in the last few years.
There's a reason for that.
They've taken a ton of them, okay? And they're just, some of them just throwing darts at the board. But when you have the draft lasts 50 rounds, you can do that.
Yeah.
And they're expending a lot of their top draft picks on pitching, and I think right now it's starting to pay off. And you surround that with the great everyday player that you should have. At least one player out of your draft should contribute some way to your team, whether through a trade or whether through playing. At least one everyday player. And they're hitting that every year. I think this Austin Meadows, who they drafted, is going to be a tremendous player. He's an outfielder who's got great tools, and he looks like he's a total stud. Now, they drafted him last year. Alan Henson is going to play in the majors in the next 2 to 3 years. He's a shortstop candidate.
Yeah.
Whether the Pirates use him as their everyday shortstop or use him as trade bait, this guy is going to be tremendous. And he's having a great spring training with the big club right now.
Yeah, they just sent him out.
Alan Henson.
He was cut with
Tyon, but he's going to be a factor next year. He's going to be a factor. Okay. So